Ik ben van opleiding ingenieur.
I am an electronic engineer by training. I was working at the University of Antwerp in the Center for Care Technology, focusing on adapting products for disabled people. A friend and I had a fun idea one evening when we were going out to create an interactive urinal. So we created a place to pee, a urinal equipped with sensors to detect in which direction the person was peeing, so they could play games on a screen. That was fun, but we soon ran into problems because the ceramic urinal got dirty and the sensor was incapable of properly detecting the direction. So purely out of love for technology, we started to look for a solution.
There
was a basic technology that we needed to develop into a useful product. So we wrote a technological grant proposal and submitted it to a government grant agency. This was a first validation, given that some experts were going to have a look at our submission and determine whether it was a viable idea. If approved, it would also allow for the necessary financial support to develop this basic technology into an effective product. So we worked almost 2 years perfecting the technology and making it into a product.
We got this idea to start up a business almost by accident. Both Jan and I saw the potential to do some wonderful things with it. We wrote this proposal for a government grant, which we got, and we subsequently carried out. That's really how this company started. We first started to develop a sensor for flushing a urinal, which was better than anything on the market. Better means that there are no false flushes, so we are water saving. It is also resistant to vandalism. So we focused on developing a better automatic flushing system for urinals and bring that to market. What this means is that our sensor can detect how dirty the urinal is and how much water is needed to flush. So we developed a sensor which could be attached to an existing urinal. We are the only ones that can detect when an individual starts and stops peeing. This is already a better product than the typical infrared product, which can only detect whether there is somebody in front and when he leaves, so it flushes.
But obviously, the commercialization and internationalization still had to start.
We started this company based on an idea and developed our own technology, so we do our own research and development. As you can see, we have our own lab where we test all electronics and ceramics. We design our own prints and layouts, but we outsource the production of the sensors. We are not a production company, so we subcontract the production to a trusted manufacturing company in Belgium, close to home. The production is designed that way that our sensors are molded into a resin, which is excellent against any liquids, but also an easy way to protect the product from copying.
In terms of sourcing, we have our own production right around the corner, so to speak. We don't do this ourselves. I don't see us doing this ourselves ever. This is not our strong suit. There are other companies that have far better expertise in this regard. We have a business model that is focused on developing the technology and researching and designing the product. But production is not something we will ever do. But we do want to keep this close to home.
We had an interesting and state-of-the-art technology, which we needed to internationalize because the whole world pees. But how to go about this?
So we had a technology which we made into a product. Our business model was to design and develop the sensor and have it made by a contract manufacturer. In this way, we would be able to supply the largest sanitary producers worldwide using a small team, because we didn't need to invest in producing any sanitary wares. We could focus on the intellectual property and develop and commercialize it. Our company is based in Belgium, near Antwerp. This is basically because it's our hometown. We live nearby. Commercially, this is not ideal because we needed to internationalize from the start. We were forced into an international arena because there are almost no local producers of sanitary wares to sell our technology to. So we needed to look from an international angle almost immediately.
We traveled through the whole of Europe, visiting all the European manufacturers of sanitary products. We introduced our new technology and sensor to automatically flush urinals.
Internationalization was not an option for us. That was almost compulsory. We looked around and we knew we couldn't sell much in our home country using our initial business model. We tackled it quite straightforward. We looked around us and contacted the companies in our neighboring countries because that's what you normally do. You look to Germany, you look to the UK, you look to France and determine which companies are there.
For us, the European market is our go-to marketplace, where we needed to be. You know all the big brands, so you get on a plane and start asking, do you want to buy?
We thought our first contacts and meetings with these big producers were great. We also believed that it would go really fast from there. Nothing was farther from the truth. During a short meeting, you tried to convey your vision, your product, and your technology, but to a very conservative industry with existing long-term relationships and ongoing business. We had hugely underestimated the difficulties in supplying sensors to large manufacturers. We were really puzzled. How is this possible? We have such a great product and fantastic technology. We had started from technology rather than a market need or market demand, an elementary mistake for many companies. We had developed a great product. We were really passionate about it and got super excited, but we had absolutely no idea whether there was a market for our product. So we had fallen into the classic trap of focusing on the technology rather than on the market.
What we hadn't foreseen was that these producers would have to dump suppliers that they had been working with for years. Those companies have been making a lot of money since the 1980s with infrared systems. Then somebody comes along saying, that is no good, get something else. But they refuse, saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep the status quo.
Initially, there was little interest from the big sanitary ware companies to buy new technology and implement this as an alternative to existing infrared technology, given that there is a lot of money being made in the sector. Why would you switch your product portfolio purely based on the vision of a better and more sustainable technology? That is hard to explain and convince incumbent sanitary ware companies.
The large sanitary ware companies were not interested. That much was clear. So we needed to go about it differently.
Rather than selling a component to large manufacturers and basically be a supplier of components, we had to switch our business model and start making packs, where we inserted our sensors into existing urinals to complete our product.
So we went to the large companies once again, but not to sell, but to buy products. We were saying, nice urinals. Can you give me your best price for it, so I can attach my sensor and start selling it in the marketplace? Instead of selling a sensor to the large sanitary producers, we turned the table on them and we started buying ceramic urinals, adding our sensors and selling the packs. This created a stir in the market, as we were not selling but buying. So we made urinals, including our technology, and started selling these packs. Nobody was ready for this, given that the whole sector is hooked on infrared systems. So we had to develop the marketplace from scratch. We started targeting public projects in Belgium. Each time we had to convince the four most important parties to any project: the builder, the architect, the contractor, and the installer of the advantages of our technology and our products. So we started doing project locally. And then we caught a break and did a large project in a cinema complex, Kinepolis, who were sick and tired of the problematic maintenance of their infrared sanitary installation. So they gave us a chance, on the promise of great after-sales service. As a startup company, you fancy the challenge, so we jumped on it. This turned out to be a great move, because this reference case led to the next project and the next, and so on. As a result, we also started selling to the wholesalers, given the sudden demand in the market, which made the large sanitary ware companies take notice, as they were losing market share in Belgium. So they got back to us.
We told them, look, it's great what you're doing, but suppose you can bring solutions to your customers. That will increase your margin. The fact that we are growing means that some other producers or product lines are declining. It is unfortunate that you have to take it that far to convince them. But at the end of the day, numbers are still the best way to realize sales. We have chosen to supply 3 different segments simultaneously. This has obviously grown historically given our internationalization process, but we have chosen to continue supplying them all. A first segment is the supply of our sensors as a component, purely selling our sensor as a component to other sanitary ware producers.
The first channel is essentially the producers of sanitary ware products. These companies actually have huge marketing budgets. All these companies sell sanitary ceramics, so they have to distinguish themselves through marketing. They also have a huge sales network, so if we can add our technology to their products, we can quickly piggyback on their sales networks. This, in turn, spreads our technology. So it is an interesting option to supply our sensor to these companies, although the margins are low, given that these companies want to take a lot of margin, but not give a lot of margin.
Then we move downstream in the value chain, where we sell our sanitary packs and branded products to wholesale dealers.
On the other hand, we had to make our own branded products, so we bought ceramics and made sanitary packs to prove there is a market for our technology. Sanitary ceramics are sold all over the world, so we source ceramics from Turkey, China, Italy. We can basically buy ceramics all over. So that's what we do, and then add our sensors, which we sometimes have to adapt to different sanitary designs and systems. We make sanitary packs, which are extremely handy for the local installers. They can unpack the urinal or toilet from the box and install it without a fuss. So we sell these packs through wholesalers, which is not very common in the sanitary business. These packs are quite unique. This is now changing, but in the beginning, we were the only ones doing this, which was adding a lot of value. So we continue with this market.
And then we have a third channel, whereby we are adding services to our products, coupling connectivity to it.
And the third market is quite new, but quickly becoming an important track. Through our sensors, we can collect a lot of information about the ceramics, the water, the clogging of the system, etc. So using the Internet of Things, we can keep track of this data and add facility management and maintenance to our products. This servitization is becoming an important market for high-traffic public buildings, like airports.
These 3 different channels follow one another within the same value chain. The reasons why we continue to service these successive markets is because, first of all, nobody else is doing this. And we feel that the integration of these markets is an added benefit for us, but also for our clients. All our competitors are typically all in one segment. The second reason why we are doing this is because it gives us a better understanding and feel for all these different parties throughout the value chain.
Well, our plans for the future of this sector are quite arrogant. We want to set new standards and change a sector, which has been doing the same thing for 100 years. There is innovation in sanitary ceramics, but not in electronics. There is practically nothing.
We are first and foremost a technology company, so we believe very strongly that technology will play the most important role in the sanitary business in the future. This has not been an evolution for us. It is basically a logical consequence how we started with the development of our technology, our sensor, our sanitary packs, and now adding a connectivity service. Due to the fact that most sectors are going through a digital transformation, there is a unique opportunity for us to also digitize part of the sanitary industry and add services to our products. Sanitary ware is about to change radically because we are going to make it digital.